Hello, this is Hello Crafter, and this is project number 3 of your Christmas craft getaway. And this is the Faceted Bauble, and it's a gift box and a decoration all in one. And it opens up like this. So take the tag off and pull the ribbon through the holes, and you can open it up to pop a little gift inside, or some sweets or anything that you want to. It fits quite a lot in, it's quite big really. And then to close it up, just one by one, thread your ribbon through to close. And then to close it up again, just thread your ribbon through the opposite square and the next one, and the final one. And so I have done all the scoring for you for this, so you'll need to do a bit of cutting, so you'll need some scissors, and you'll need a pokey tool just to poke the hole through that final paper panel. And you can stamp a little greeting on the tag if you want to, or write a little message. And that's a perfect gift for, and you can stamp a little greeting or write a little message on this tag. And there you have it. So I've provided a piece which has already been scored for you, holes punched and everything. I've provided some paper that's already been cut up. You've got 18 1-inch squares, and you've got 8 of these 1-inch gold squares, which you will need to cut up, which I'll show you how in a minute. And you've got some ribbon and the tag as well. Now this bit is only partly done. I wanted to show you how I did the scoring on this piece in case you wanted to do another. I basically followed a tutorial by the Paper Pixie. She's got a video tutorial on YouTube, and on her blog there's a template as well, so it's really easy to follow her instructions if you prefer. But I'll just really briefly run through how I recreated that project and did the prep for you. So with my scoring scoreboard, I took my piece of card that measures 10.5 inches long by 6.25 inches, and popped it into my scoreboard. And basically you want to score a grid at 1.25 inches square. So every 1.25 inches you're going to make a score line. So 1.25, 2.5, 3 3/4, 5, 6.25, 7.5, 8 3/4, and 10. And then if you turn it round and do the same measurements on this side, 1.25, 2.5, 3 3/4, and 5, and that gives you a grid with a little tab on the end. If you turn it back round, you need to make these lines here. Every other square you need to score at halfway down the square. So that's at 5/8, then miss one, 3 1/8, miss one, 5 5/8, miss one, 8 1/8. You don't need to do one on that one. And then if you flip over, you can do those same measurements on the opposite side. So that's 5/8, 3 1/8, 5 5/8, 8 1/8. But it's only scored down to that first score line. So you can see it's scoring that top square in half, because then we need to do some diagonal scoring. And so I've done that using a ruler and my foam pad there. So you just need to score diagonals from the bottom of that halfway score line down to the corner to create triangles on this this square here. So you just go from the bottom of the score line, so it's the centre of that square, down to the bottom corner. So you're creating these triangles. So I'll just finish that bit off before I go on to the next bit. So I'll just fast forward this bit here while I finish off doing that, and the same on the other side as well. Okay, and then we want to put holes along the top for threading the ribbon through. And how I've done that, easy, made myself a little template just for speed. So this is a 1 1/4 inch square, and I've taken a ruler and pencil and drawn diagonals to get right in the centre, my centre point, where I've punched a hole right in the centre. And that I can line up on these squares that don't have the score line and make a mark so that I can punch the holes. So I just use my template to very quickly get a mark right in the centre where I want the hole. The more accurate you can get your holes in the centre, the better, really, for later on. And I'm using my trusty crocodile, but if you've got a single hole punch, that is just as good. And I think I'll do a bigger hole. I've got 2 sizes on this, and I can just about see where I need to punch. And if I was making multiples of these, I could easily lay this on top of my next one and just even quicker do some holes like this, or put a stack together and punch holes all at the same time. So that bit's done, and this is where you will pick it up. So you will have your piece at this stage already done for you. So the first thing you need to do is cut away the bottom and the top little rectangles where this tab bit is. So cut away these corners, and I quite like to cut a little wedge out to make a tab shape there. Okay, and then all of these bottom and top that have a score line through the middle of them, you want to remove those as well. So if you just cut down to the score line, first of all, and then cut away all the squares that have that score line in. So it's sometimes easy if you fold the other ones back and you can get your scissors in more easily. So just remember not to cut away the squares without the score line. And then then you're left with this castle shape here. Same on the other side. And then cut away anything with a score line. Okay, so that's what you're left with after that stage. Now for some folding. So this bit is going to be quite important for when you're folding the box up, if you've got your nice score lines creased. So start with the tab and then work your way across, making sure those folds are really well creased. And then you want to do these ones inwards, and then these that go across as well. So then turn it over so that everything folds inwards. These diagonal lines, it'd be really useful now to get those creased. So I tend to put my finger down and then just bring it up and try and crease that diagonal that way. So again, just try as best you can to get a crease on that diagonal, and this will make putting your box together lots easier later on, because everything will just fold up the way that it's supposed to fold. So those end ones are really easy to fold in. It's just these ones are a little bit trickier because you have to bring everything else up with it. Okay. And now it's ready for you sticking your coloured squares on, and they go in these spots here. So basically where there isn't a score line on the centre pieces there, and save one for the top of the box and the bottom of the box, but we'll do that in a moment. So I'm just going to get gluing these little squares on. Right in the centre of each panel, and I'm just going to carry on and get them all stuck on. Probably speed this bit up. So for the gold pieces, you need to cut these into thirds, into the triangle shapes to fit on these scored pieces here. And to do that, just turn one over, take a ruler and measure 1/2 inch along the top and make a mark at 1/2 inch, which is halfway. And then with your ruler, you can draw down from that point in the centre to the bottom corner, and again from that point to the other bottom corner to make a triangle. So you can do that, you can draw it first and then cut, or you can just cut straight down if you're pretty confident with your scissors to cut from the corner to that mark in a straight line. You can just do that to save you a little bit of time, but if you want it to make sure that it's perfectly accurate, then draw the lines first. And then you'll see when you've cut this, you've got the triangle that will fit in that section and the two smaller triangles that will fit just here in those sections. And you just keep doing that on all 8 pieces. And then just glue them on. So once everything's glued down and given a chance to dry, then we can start putting the box together. So fold this part in, doesn't matter where, to leave this tab facing up. And then I'll put glue or sticky strip on that tab and then fold the other part over to glue it together. Make sure it's well glued down, and then you can see it's this 8-sided tube, and you can see where we need to start gluing everything down. So just make sure these diagonal folds still fold inwards, so you can just use your fingers to pinch those together and it starts to close that end in. So first thing you need to do is take 2 opposite tabs and glue them together. So put glue on the top of one and then line them up so that they're fully flush on top of each other, and you should be able to get your fingers in. And the good thing about this Tombow glue is it gives you a minute to move everything together if it's out of place. So my fingers are inside, I can make sure that's well pressed together. These ones are a little bit trickier, so again use your fingers to push them closed, and everything should kind of pop into place. It's a little bit trickier to get these 2 to stick together, but get your finger inside one and get that one moved right in and pinch it closed. Just hold it for a second until the glue dries once it's in place. And this is the final one, so push that in, put glue on top of there and close that. So if your squares are all lined up as square as possible on top of each other, your bauble will have the most bauble-like shape. So I've pressed that for a second, but you can turn it over, open it up, and just take your ruler or pencil or bone folder. Let's get that inside, give it a really good press down. So if you want to at this stage you can fill your box, or you can just get everything all closed ready to pop a gift in later on. So I'm just pushing in these diagonal folds in again to just so that everything gets ready to come together. And we're going to have to choose one for the top because we need to put our paper on the top actually. So if I do that now, you could have done this earlier. If I thought about it, I could have chosen one earlier. So if you don't have a hole punch to punch that hole, don't worry about it. Just get a needle or your piercing tool, put a small hole just that way up, and then from this side push that through and make it bigger from the other side, and that should be big enough to pull your ribbon through. Okay, so take your ribbon, fold it in half and put a knot in the end. Make sure your knot's fairly close to the end and pull tight. So from your loop end, that's where you're threading through. So fold it in half, make that end as small as possible, and starting with the square next to the one that you put your paper on, pull that through, and then the opposite one, go from the back to the front and pull that tight so that it's fully over the other one, and then pull it through that one, and finally on with your paper. And to pull everything pretty tight, then it should all work as a bauble. Then you can take your little tag and thread that through as well. So I hope you enjoyed that project and it wasn't too tricky for you. Please message me if you get stuck, and I'll see you on the next project.